One. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Living Authentically, Becoming Your True Self, the podcast where we explore what it really means to live, speak, and lead from a place of truth and kindness. I'm your host, Whitaker, and I'm a life and transitions and identity coach. I guide individuals through significant life changes, helping them to rediscover their true selves and embrace new beginnings with clarity and confidence. Today's episode is all about spiritual identity. So what do I mean by that? So I mean that we're going to be touching on things like spiritual belief, philosophical outlook, senses of purpose, and connection. To help me explore this topic, I have a lovely guest speaker called Lea, holistic relationship guide who helps women through human design, inner child parenting, and body wisdom alchemy to attract healthy love. Hi, Lea. How are you?
Hello, Sue. I'm great. I'm amazing. Super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, that's great. That's great, and I'm glad that we seem to have got on really well with it at the moment this morning. So, talk to me a little bit about where this all started for you.
So, unhealthy relationships. What can I say? Lots and lots of trial and error with relationships. I noticed
Okay,
that was kind of the pattern across my life up until now. A lot of unhealthy relationship dynamics, starting with my family dynamics. And
right.
then that, of course, spilled over to my adult or young adult relationships. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I can relate to that, to be fair, because I think when someone talks to me about their relationships, particularly younger relationships, I would say that some of my childhood relationships are not as healthy as they could have been, right? So
Mhm.
I found that from a very, very young age, which
Mm.
I don't think is something that the world sort of prepares ourselves for. So yeah, so talk to me a little bit more about the how you got to where you are today, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, of course. So it was a bumpy ride, and I I don't know how to describe it. So until 2020, I was living in this kind of limbo, or what's it called? The purgatory, I would say, like trapped,
Wow.
knowing that you're meant for more, that there has to be more to life than what you've been living over and over again every single day. And so, yeah, in 2020, I at some point, after months and months of crying every single day, I was exhausted. I ended up my very first relationship, and we were together for like 1 year and a half. And then, and I was completely numb. Like, I was numbed out from all of the crying every single day. Once a day, it was a must for me to cry. I was anxious all the time, overthinking all the time. I was completely burnt out. And then I ended the relationship just before the exam period started, because I was finishing my 3-year university program.
Right.
And so I was always nervous. I was always very scared of the exam period, because I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to fail everything. And I never did. I always passed everything. But it was just my inner narrative. It was like the inner critic was very loud.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was so numbed out. I was so burnt out from all the crying and overthinking and the anxiety and everything, that it was the first time I went and did the exams with zero care. I was like, I don't care if I fail. I don't care if I make it. I'm just gonna go and do my thing. I was not nervous, and I passed everything. So it was really, I hit a point where I just could not care as much as I have. I kind of, it was maybe like, I let go of the control. I was trying to keep everything. I was holding on so tight, and then it came to a point where I just let everything go, and I let everything, like, quote unquote, fall apart. Yeah. And so then I decided that I want to leave the country, my home country. And first I wanted to go to Canada, then COVID happened, so I couldn't go to Canada. And then I kind of I looked for plan B because I decided, I made a choice. I want to leave. That was it. No plan, no nothing. Just I want to leave. Don't know how. And then I started looking into au pair programs, which is basically a live-in nanny. And then I found this family in Switzerland. And then by the end of the year, I moved to Switzerland and I never looked back. So for the past 4 years living in Switzerland, I've had a lot of failed relationships, I would say, or situationships as we call them now, because they're not really relationships. They are a situation, and it's whatever. It's a mix of trauma bonding, I would say.
That's a lot to unpack right there that you were just talking about. My gosh, I totally get you though about anxiety, just doing something and not worrying about it because you've worried so much about whether you're going to fail. I have massive issues with fear of failure in recent coaching sessions that I've done. It's really quite enlightening actually to hear somebody else talk about it because I think you feel like almost you're going a little nuts, aren't you, about just how passionate you care, and then you literally just suddenly go blasé, as you say, you kind of like numb, and then you just go through the motions, But it's great to hear that you achieved what you were hoping to achieve, because that's always great. And of course, then you've obviously moved around. You talked about that. My gosh, I mean that in itself is a big life transition, isn't it? Moving to another country, and for me, I'm sort of hearing, that fight or flight kind of reaction that we have to those sorts of things. You either stick it out or you either want to run away. And I bet some people who are listening to this are probably thinking, yeah, I've wanted to run away. I wanted to run away. So that's really interesting. So let me take us back a little bit to the spiritual piece that we're talking about today. So where did that start to come in for you at this point then?
Right. So just I want to also say that it was a big life transition to move to another country, not knowing anyone, alone. Then again, it all came like it always boils down to a choice that you make, the internal choice, the internal agreement that you make with yourself. I'm doing this and I don't care how it's going to happen. I know that this is not my place, and I need to make this change, whatever it is. And no matter how big or small it is, we need to make a choice and then stick to it and then just do it. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Then coming back to the spiritual journey, it kind of started step by step because for the 4 years I've been living away from my country, meaning away from my old environment, which was what conditioned me into the person that I used to be. So for the past 4 years, I've been on a journey of finding myself, right? And then for actually 2 years after coming here, I was still living that old identity of mine that I brought from my old environment. And so I was repeating the same toxic patterns with these situationships and men and whatever, until 2 years ago, I got to a point, and I call this my rock bottom because like I couldn't go any lower. That is when I shifted everything. And it was a decision that happened within a couple of weeks, or in that moment, or in that day. I made a decision to start that something needs to change. I need to change. I need to become a different person. And that's not what my brain thought process was. Now I'm reflecting back. Something needs to change so that my life can change, because I don't want to live the life that I have been living for the past, I don't know, how old was I? 25 years, right? I need to change. So I stopped drinking, stopped smoking, stopped looking for a man to save me, stopped going out on dates, stopped distracting myself, stopped, using dating apps, and start focusing on myself. And this is where I feel, so 2 years ago, this is where I truly started on this spiritual journey. I was journaling before and I was doing therapy and stuff like that, but it wasn't that. It was just talking. There was no action supporting what we were talking about in those sessions, right? So then I started taking action.
That's That's really, really interesting because I think I've spoken to a few people already in my first year as an entrepreneur, as you well know, and we've talked about the fact that you can change practically everything around you, your environment, your friends, your family, etc. But the one thing that remains the same, unless you're going to do something about it, is you. And that's the whole emphasis that I wanted to make
Mm.
on this podcast is that it's about living authentically, which means that you have to put certain stuff down and pick other stuff up that is truly you. And I find that beautiful the way you put it. That is amazing. So where did it start? I mean, how did you go about that? You said it took a couple of weeks. What was the catalyst, if you like?
So the catalyst was my rock bottom. So meaning I got to a point, a certain situation happened where I was completely, how to say, disappointed in myself. I was completely like shocked by what I allowed to happen, or the point where I got myself to. And I'm not saying that every single person who is looking to change needs to get to that point, right? But some of us need to get to that point so that it's like a slap in the face, and it like you finally understand that it's if you don't change, nothing else is going to change. Like nobody from outside of you is going to come and save you from yourself and start doing things differently if you're not going to start doing things differently. So I decided that I need to start. So I used to I used to be very socially anxious, as in it was really difficult for me to go out and like
Yeah.
among people, and I was constantly worried about or thinking how people are constantly looking at me and judging me, and self-centered, right? And yeah, then I just decided that I want to go to the gym and I wanted to start moving my body. That was the whole point. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, just go out for a walk or whatever. Walks they do work for me, but I enjoy going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
And for the
Yeah.
gym, because my mom, she kept saying, yeah, why would you want to pay for this volleyball class when you can go up into the mountain and that's for free? And I'm like, because I actually gonna enjoy it, so I'm gonna stick to it.
Yeah. And I totally get you on that. I totally get you on that. And the reason why I say that is because, I'm sitting here nodding, going, yes, yes, I can understand it completely. And one of the reasons why I'm saying that is because I can I've had gym memberships before, and I've done running before, running for free. If anybody doesn't know, there's a park run on a Saturday morning around the globe that is a 9 o'clock free 5K. A lot of people like it. It's competitive. It's good, but I found running boring. Physically, it took me a long time to do the 5K, and I had to listen to things to keep me going. As well as having that motivation to reach the end. And the gym, I loved it. I loved the gym. It gave me something when I needed it at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing has been better for me than owning my horses, because owning my horses has meant that I have not only a physical but an emotional responsibility to take care of them, and going out there and spending time with them and giving them what they need, not just the basic stuff like food or whatever, but taking care of them and looking after them, has given me a drive to be more active more frequently. Because if I don't go, then I have this in my head of like, oh my goodness, if I don't go, this is going to be different. And they're not going to sort of, see me and stuff. And yes, but technically they will survive. There are staff there who will help lead them, but they won't get the same nourishment or enrichment if I don't go.
Mm-hmm.
And they are truly my happy place. So even when it's absolutely the dead of winter, it's freezing, it's cold, it's raining, it's wet, it's muddy, I still have something to come back to when I'm taking care of the horses. So I think that's one of the things that's really fascinating me about that. And I actually I think that there's a certain level of guilt that I put on myself which again is that negative self-talk. Oh, you're spending money and you're not going or whatever, etc. And I think we all have days where it goes up and down, right? Progress is never a linear line or a straight up, right? But what they give me, that is the important thing. So I think you definitely have to find your happy place, your place where you can make that drive, and it's great when you finally find it. It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, the spiritual stuff, the philosophical sort of outlook and sense of purpose, that sort of thing that we're talking about. Take me through a little bit about what that started looking like for you. Obviously, there are other topics that we've mentioned that I seem to have fallen over the words, like human design and all that sort of stuff. But talk a little bit about where that kind of began and how you started getting into that.
Right. So after that, like rock bottom, I started, first of all, I had to get myself out of my head, meaning not to fix, but manage my anxiety, which I did with physical activities. I started showing up for myself, going to the gym, and then that was its own process. And then I started investing in online courses. I got this. I decided where I want to go, because I never in my life, I didn't know what I want to do in my life. I didn't, none of the conventional job titles pulled me in, or I was leaning towards, I didn't lean towards any of the traditional conventional job titles. So I was always like, well, what the hell am I doing with my life? What am I gonna do?
Where
Right?
am I going with it? What am I going to do? Yeah.
Exactly. And then I started seeing more and more these online ventures, online, I don't know, courses, online digital marketing, whatever, online. And so I was thinking, okay, interesting. I'm an introvert, which like work online would be perfect. Then again, what would I do? So I started investing in these online courses. I started with digital marketing, and I did not like it because it was too robotic, too impersonal. And I know that when you start building your brand, you can make it however you want to, but that was just not it. I I don't like so much the techie stuff, right? It's useful to know, but that's not my thing. And so that actually redirected me, or it showed me what I don't want, and it showed me what I do want, which is personal development. And I went from there. So for me, at first it was just personal development, and then the personal development piece kind of started going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until I started, practicing, not practicing even, I started connecting with people who were into, Ayurveda and into meditation and breath work and EFT tapping. And I joined a coach, like a business program, where within the same program, I then joined the human design certification and past life regression. And then it just went deeper and deeper, and one thing led to another. And I started meeting more healers and more coaches and more people who do energy work, and I just got so fascinated with it. So yeah, and that's how
And
it
that
went.
and that comes through in how you're articulating it. You can tell that it's your passion. And I have to admit, Lea, since we've started talking, right, and communicating, because obviously, as we know, we're on the same kind of coaching course, and that's fine. I never heard of human design. I'd never heard of some of this stuff. I'd heard of like inner child, obviously nervous system, etc., and things like that, and various bits. But the human design element and the past life regression, I think I'd heard of some stuff around past life, but it really sparked something in me, the human design piece, because it's about that connection with yourself, right? So, and I could see you're nodding, going, yes, yes, it is, it is. So just in case anybody doesn't see what we're saying, it's like, yes, I'm agreeing. Sue is right. Sue is right. So yeah, so that's an interesting, a really fascinating piece. So talk to me a little bit about human design. Please tell us what it's a little bit about.
Okay, perfect. So human design is basically, it's your energetic blueprint. So it's all about energy, and it shows you how you were designed. Your energetic blueprint, how you were designed to operate in this life, how you were designed to make decisions, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and how to put yourself back into alignment, how you are supposed to what is your strategy when it comes to responding to life? Do you have to wait for invitation? Do you have to wait to respond? Are you the one who actually initiates things? Are you the one who has to wait for 28 days to make a decision? You never know. So that's what human design tells you. It kind of translates your energy to you, or it shows you who you truly are, how you are supposed to express your energy. And when you know your human design, you're bound to tune into your body, because it's all connected, right? Human design has to do with chakras, it has to do with gene keys, it has to do with astrology, like planetary positions, all of the things. And so when you tune into your body, it's also connected to your organs, right? Each and every chakra is connected to certain organs in your body. And then you can see, I've worked with with women who had what's it called? Vertigo. They had issues with their vocal cords, what's it called? Thyroid issues.
Oh, thyroid. Yeah.
So for example, that happens if you have a defined throat energy center and you are not speaking your truth because you are keeping yourself small and silent, and so that shows in your body. Or you have migraines if you are not expressing your thoughts, or you're keeping your opinions to yourself because it was not safe for you for your inner child to express your thoughts, and so you have these chronic migraines and so on and so forth. So it's all connected. And then it's the connection between human design, inner child, and the body is how it's really fascinating. And that's what I've been discovering and learning and seeing as I'm working with people, how it all really ties together. Yeah.
It's really quite fascinating to hear you talking about it. The only thing I think I can really relate to is the head piece, because oh my goodness, I felt like I've had headaches and I feel like my thoughts just need to get out of my head, and I think that certainly where we are in this world right now, we understand the link better between the emotional and the physical, right?
Yeah.
So, when we talk about things like medicine and things like that, we talk about people are treating the physical symptoms, but quite often the physical symptoms can be somehow, from originating from, tension in the body, etc. Not all the time, but some of the time, right? So, and because I've had massive digestive issues throughout the past few years, I'm not going to share any more than that. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into detail. But the interesting part of it is what causes the distress as such is sometimes is not necessarily just pure physical. It's a combination of physical, emotional. So,
For sure.
So that alignment piece is really interesting. And I know you mentioned sort of chakras and things like that. Obviously, there are some people who are not that way inclined. So I'm curious, what would you say to people who don't necessarily see that link at the moment?
What do you mean by
about human design, etc. If you were to sort of describe it to somebody who didn't necessarily believe that chakras were a real thing as such, what would you sort of say to them? Or have you had anybody who sort of said, I'm not sure I believe in that kind of thing? How does that work?
Yeah, so human design is basically, and astrology and chakras and whatever, it's a tool, right? And so the tool only it's helpful to you if you believe in it. So if you don't believe it, then it's not going to be helpful to you, and that's perfectly okay. There are a million billion other tools out there that can help you, that you believe in. It's all about whether you are it all boils down to the belief system that you have. So some people believe in God, some people believe in the universe, whatever it is, as long as it's something, a higher power, something divine, something out there that is helping you, whatever it is, as long as you have that belief and it's helping you, that's the only thing that matters.
I love that. I really do love that because I think some people will quite happily say, yeah, that isn't for me. And as you say, that's absolutely fine. And I think that's one of the main reasons why in these days and ages that we have multiple things that can help, right? Multiple things. So one of the things I loved that you talked about was it being a tool. So I've used tools in my professional career. I've been in professional HR for well over 20 years. And one of the things that the tools that I use is psychometric testing, right? And not a lot of people understand what psychometric testing is, but it's about you give them a questionnaire, they answer questions about what their preferences are. Are they introvert? Are they extrovert? Are they spontaneous? Are they, well planned, etc. And then it kind of, based on the questions and how they've answered them, it gives them a profile, right? It gives them a profile. And you can do it with colors, you can do it with words, you can do it with, there's so many different tools out there. I think I'm technically qualified in 3 of them, I think, and they all work slightly differently. But the end result is you give this person a report, and the report tells them what their preferences are. And some people tend to say, oh, does that mean that's who I am? And the answer is no. That just means that the way you've answered, that's your preference.
Right. So
but
is
your
that like a
preference
personality
changes.
test?
Say again, sorry?
Is that like a personality test?
Yes. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. But psychometrics can help with basically understanding what you need to do to be either better organized or to be better at working in a team. So some psychometrics are fully around like how the team performs and whether you've got a load of creators but nobody that actually instigates or creates action. And then you've got a load of people who might be great at those 2 bits, but are not good at evaluating and then self-improving or continuous improvement. So sometimes a lot of professional teams in the corporate world will do something like that. So they understand who they've got a lot of and who they don't have a lot of. Because when it comes to them putting something together and implementing it, you've got loads of people who want to focus on the creative side, but nobody that actually wants to do the doing, basically, which is very similar to what you said about doing the doing. But again, it's just a preference. And one of the things I talk to a lot of people about is preferences change over time and also what's impacted you in your life. Yeah. So when somebody says, oh, I've done all the psychometric testing you can give me, you're not going to tell me anything different, I tend to say, okay, how long has it been? And if it's been over 5 years, I invite them to do it again because it tends to have changed. It tends to change as they've grown up, as they've got more life experience, things like that.
Yeah.
Is human? So I guess that's an interesting question I've just come up with. Is that is human design static, or could it change?
The human design always stays the same. The chart does not change, but you as a person, you change and you evolve and you grow and you have new experiences, just like you said. So it's a tool, again, just like your tool is, human design is also a tool. And so you come back, you're supposed to come back to it again and again as you evolve, as you grow, as you change, as you shift. So
it's almost a bit like appreciating art, isn't it? It's like you could see a picture and you could see one thing, and then later on you revisit the picture and you see something else.
100%.
I don't know if you've done that with anybody, but we've shown pictures, different artwork to people, and somebody will say, oh, there's a lot of red in that picture, or oh, that looks like a very busy picture, because they look at the facts or they look at the emotions, and people have just a fascinating way, don't we? We all have fascinating ways of seeing things in a different way. And I can imagine that you look at that human design and some people will automatically relate to some of it, and then other people won't.
Yeah, and when it gets to reading the human design chart, we always have to trust that right now in this moment you are going to see things the way you need them to see, so that we can get you to, into alignment and to see the next step for you, right? So it's all about perception. The perception that you have right now is the perception that you need to get you to where you need to go, right? With the help of this tool.
So that's a really good point you've made. So what is the next step then at this stage for somebody who wants to go a little deeper into that piece?
You mean in human design and things like that?
Or just how would you take somebody like a client or something through these sorts of pieces or processes, etc.?
Oh, right. So
you're like, how I mean, I don't know. I could be asking a really stupid question because obviously, as I say, I'm just discovering it for myself. So feel free to answer how you feel is best to describe it.
Right. So each and every person who's working with human design, they have their unique approach. So for me, I work it in a way, I work with women, and I work in a way that is very aware of inner child. So the human design and the inner child are very interconnected. And so as we work through you give me your birth date, birth time, birth location. I draw up the chart, which you can go online and you can get it for free. Then again, the reading is the juicy bit, right? The reading is I put together a PDF, and then I put all of the pieces together, like your type, your strategy, your decision, like how you make decisions, so your authority. And then we go to each and every energy center. There are 9 energy centers. Some of them are defined, some of them are undefined. And so in each expression is different. If they are defined, you're producing your own energy there. If they are undefined, you are absorbing other people's energy and you're amplifying that energy. And if you're not careful, you can take on other people's energy and then you can mistake it for your own, and then that drains you completely. So it's very important when we talk about energy centers who you surround yourself with. If you have a lot of undefined energy centers, you need to be really very, very careful who you are surrounding yourself with, because otherwise you can get energetically enmeshed with other people. You can take on their, not personality, just their energy. And sometimes, I don't know for you, but for me, I have open identity center. And so that means that the person that I'm with, and if I like them, so then I'm going to start acting like that person. And then I have to ask myself consciously, now that I know my human design, I have to ask myself, do I like the person that I am with this person? If the answer is no, I need to just distance myself from this person. Because
Right,
we
yeah.
need to be very careful who we're surrounding ourselves with, because we want to be around people who lift us up. We want to be around people who, I want to be like that person. I want to be more like that person, right? I like their these and those qualities. No person is perfect, but then you can feel it in your body if this person is good for you, and you feel good when you're with them. Meaning, the person that I am with this person, I like that person. As in, I like myself when I'm with this person. I hope that makes sense.
No, I totally get that. I totally get that. I've been with people when I reflect on my life. I've been with people in my career or relationships, etc., friends, family, whatever, and I've kind of gone, that's not serving me, because basically it's just teaching me to be more paranoid or anxious, etc., because they're anxious or whatever. And as you say, there's that kind of that energy and vibe that you get from somebody, right? So say that they might not have your best interests at heart. They don't have, you don't know what their motivations are, but you find yourself questioning yourself, don't you, about things and stuff like that. So I totally get that, and I hope people who are listening to this sort of get that as well. So talk to me a little bit about the inner child that you mentioned. So again, that's probably the least familiar other trait that I'm aware of. So I think I know what it is, but would you be okay to just sort of give us a very, very quick one-stop sort of, what is the inner child, and how does
Okay.
that help us?
So the way I like to see the inner child, so the inner child is just, it's a man-made concept, so that it helps us, like, it helps our brain to grasp like what we're working with, because the inner work is on the inside, so we can't see it, so we come up with these concepts to help us work with it. So the way I see the inner child, it's an aspect of us. So within us we have the inner critic, which is probably something you've heard before. We have
Oh yeah.
the ego, we have the inner child, we have the all sorts of different archetypes, like the queen, the huntress, the mistress, the whatever. That's also something we can work with. So inner child is just one of the aspects that we can work with. And the inner child is basically, you imagine your younger self. So we have multiple and multiple and multiple younger versions of ourselves. So the version from yesterday, the version from the day before that, the version from last year, the version from 5 years ago, and also the version when you were 5 years old, when you were 3 years old, when the trauma first happened, whatever that trauma was, right? And so the way we work with the inner child is we think of we think back, not to re-traumatize, but to be there, to sit with your inner child in that moment when the trauma happened, and offer it the safety and the support and the recognition and the love that it was looking for and didn't get in that moment. And so we help and we work with the inner child. We work on making our inner child feel safe, that aspect of ourselves who is still looking for safety in another man, in another woman, in outside of ourselves, in friendships, in workplace. They're trying to please, they're trying to, shapeshift, they're trying to whatever. That is not the adult you, that is your wounded inner child driving your day-to-day decisions, right? And so when we work with our inner child, which human design also helps us do, and then tuning into our body and stuff like that, we are working with that younger version of ourselves who didn't feel safe. And in order to reparent our inner child, is for us to start doing things that's going to make our inner child feel safe. Meaning, we start speaking up for ourselves, we start standing up for ourselves, we start saying no, we start setting boundaries, we start distancing ourselves from people who make our inner child feel less than and unsafe and things like that. So we start being the adult in our lives, and we start becoming the hero of our own story.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I definitely connect with that. Certainly when it comes to things like saying no, boundaries, etc. One of the things that when you talk about inner child, and I've only spoken about inner child with a few people, but I think you've just made a really good connection for me in terms of how I feel, because I feel empathy towards my younger self, right? When I need something. So I do connect with it, and I understand that, as you say, inside there could be this frightened or scared mini me that needs to be reassured, right? I don't know if you've actually ever seen it, but there's this film. It's a 90s film, and I do love it, and it's called Drop Dead Fred. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
No, I'm gonna have to send you a link. But one of the things is I think the subtext under it is they're talking about the inner child, mostly because there's this woman who is an adult but is controlled by her mother and is told what the best things are for her and things like that. And then she has this imaginary friend that helps take her on a journey where she effectively learns how to be confident for herself, have boundaries, say no, go for the things that she actually wants. And it should have happened at a younger age, but there's a story behind it why it's a younger age. And they're like, there's this particular scene when they're in her mind, and it's a younger self on a bed, and they're sort of taped down onto the bed, so they can't get up, they can't leave, they feel unsafe. And one of the things that she does is she sort of releases her inner me. And I think it's a really lovely scene, because I think it actually focuses on exactly what you're saying about how you support your inner child, you know, and how you face up to the things that really scare you, that really that have scared you in the past, but you actually look at it with like, I don't know, like an adult vision and say, I don't need to be scared of that anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I don't need to be influenced by that anymore. So if you don't know it, check it out. I will probably try and pop a link or something to
Yeah,
the
do that.
to the film, because I do think there's an element of that. It's actually a very funny film, but it's yeah, but that does kind of prop up into my head, and I have to say it because if I don't, then my little body goes, oh, you say it. But I love that. So I think there's some really useful stuff there that you talked about in terms of inner child and how it can relate, and the human design. And I love that you talked about it being a man-made sort of concept, because I think that we always have a difficulty as human beings to understand our inner self, as in what we're thinking inside. And as you say, that inner critic, my goodness, how many of us have had that inner critic? I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not, all sorts of phrases that crop up. And I really like comparing that, because I talk to neurodivergent people a lot of the time because I'm neurodivergent. And that's one of the things I've been talking to people about, is that actually apparently neurodivergent people tend to have more of an inner monologue and inner critic than neurotypical, apparently. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, because I'm sure there is always an aspect of that. Some people would call it their soul as well, wouldn't they? You know, and I think that's kind of where I'm seeing the spiritual link is that some people would say, oh, it's my soul. You know, is
Yeah.
that, what do you think about that? Or
So
do you think that's different?
yeah, the soul is the energy. The soul is not the aspect. The aspects are in the mind. So you have body, mind, and soul, right? The soul is the energy. The mind is the aspect. It's the psychological. It's intangible. It's intangible, but it's still, you can put a concept to it. And then the soul is the energy. It's the feeling, right?
Yes.
So if we can go, it's like feeling, and then it's thought, and then it's yeah.
I see. Yeah, yeah. I can see where you're coming from on that one. I like it, and I think, yeah, I think that's really quite. I feel like we've learned so much already just in our short conversation. I feel like I learned so much. So I guess the other thing I really have to ask about, what the stuff that you've given us, and I'm conscious that we're coming up to probably where we want to close it in a few minutes, so we will. But body wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What is body wisdom? So you said that that you've helped with body wisdom alchemy. Is that how
Right.
yeah, help?
Yeah. So it's all interconnected. So you know how sometimes people say that, this is just an example, like the gut is our second brain. And I spoke to you earlier about how like human design and chakras and whatever, these energy centers are connected to different body parts and organs.
Yeah.
So it's all connected, right? So if body's wisdom. So for example, our body is constantly communicating to us. When we are feeling stressed, how is our body communicating to us? We have
Yes.
sweaty arms. We start sweating on our forehead. We start having shallow breathing, or not deeper, more shallow breathing. So that is our body's wisdom, body communicating to us, hey, something is wrong. And so then we have to obviously check within ourselves, become aware of it, and then check within ourselves, okay, so is there danger? Like, why am I in this fight flight stress response, right? Is there like a tiger somewhere like preying on me, or is this like
Got you.
something, right? I'm just preparing for exam, and so I'm feeling nervous, and now I have diarrhea and blah blah blah, right? So that's also
Yeah.
the body reacting to and sending messages like something's wrong. And this is where we need to become mindful, and we need to do emotional regulation. We need to do the nervous system regulation to manage that fight flight stress response,
I
right?
love that. I love that.
And so it's
That's
just
like,
yeah,
I called it intuition in the past. Like you've got feeling, as you say. And I'm going to need to put a trigger warning on that we've mentioned.
yeah. But the thing yeah
Yeah,
the
but that,
thing is
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing is that gut feelings and intuition, they are going to be very subtle. They are the body's wisdom. However, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, stress responses, they are the intense ones. They are when we
Right.
feel fear. They are when we're like, sometimes when we go on a date and we say, oh, I have like butterflies in my stomach left and right, and you're actually feeling like knots in your stomach because it's so
Yeah.
intense. Butterflies
Yeah.
are not supposed to be. Butterflies are, when you see a butterfly, you don't see like something, I don't know, squeezing your stomach. You see flow, you see ease, right? So when you have butterflies in your stomach, that the intuition, that's the gut feeling, and it's subtle. When we feel intense emotions about a person, about a job, about whatever, we're nervous. There's a difference. We have to learn how to distinguish between the intensity and then the subtleness. So the intensity is, okay, something's wrong, like, I don't know, either you mentally got yourself into a place where, oh my god, like, if I don't get this job, the world's gonna end, I'm gonna die. And so you're in survival mode, and so your nervous system is completely out of whack, and your body is sending signals like, abort mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I totally get that. And that, do
Yeah.
you know what? What's really fascinating about that is I talk about emotional regulation with my horses, right? So again, they are brilliant with this. So to use your words, their body wisdom alchemy is way more attuned than
Mm-hmm.
ours, and they can spot things way quicker than we can as humans. So you can go into a field with a couple of horses, and if you're bringing danger, or if you're bringing upset, or if you're bringing heavy emotions that they don't want, right? They will spot it from like over the other side of the field, right? There's been days where I've had to literally walk the entire length of my field to get my horse, because my horse goes, no, I don't like how you're presenting today. I don't want to come near you. And you go, oh, brilliant. And then there are other days where you turn up, you're happy, you're relaxed, you've had a nice ride down to the ranch, etc. She just comes to you. She just like literally, here I am, hi. And I find that absolutely fascinating because
Mhm.
as you say, their responses are so strong. Um,
Exactly. And
and that's
nobody,
why,
yeah.
go on, sorry.
And nobody, because the thing is, what you just described is horses listening to their body's wisdom. They are listening. They are attuned to their bodies, and so they are listening to their bodies. Right? When their body says no, not today, they're listening and they go away. For us, we are conditioned to not listen because, like, our parents, nobody taught our parents to listen to their bodies, so they didn't know how to teach us how to listen to our bodies, and so we just ignore it. Sometimes we
Yeah,
drive
yeah,
down the road, we're looking at GPS, and the GPS is saying go right. Your body is saying go left because I know that I'm not exactly sure where I am, but I sense that I have to go right or left, whichever I
yeah,
said. But
yeah,
the GPS is saying go right, and so you go right, and it's the wrong place, and then you go left, and you're like, why didn't I listen to myself before? Like, I knew I should have gone left, but yet I went right because we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our bodies knowing the wisdom.
I've totally done that in the past. I've totally agreed to something, and then I've come home, and my body and my brain is saying to me, "Why have you done that? Why did you agree to do that? That's
Mhm,
uncomfortable. You just wanted to people please, right?" And then I've
mhm.
had to turn around and say, "No, no." And I've actually gone back and gone, "I'm not going to do it," and it
Yeah.
actually feels bad, but I then also feel so much better for it, for saying that I've done that.
Can I just,
It's
yeah.
really interesting. Yeah, go for it. Go on.
What you just said right now, this is
Mm.
very important for everyone who's listening. When you say yes to something so you know that you're a recovering people pleaser, and you say yes to something that your body is then telling you, like, oh my God, why did you say yes? You don't want to go. Don't show, first of all, show yourself compassion. And second of all, give yourself permission to go back and say no. Give yourself permission to change your mind because it's okay. And also be prepared to sit in the discomfort of disappointing someone. That's very important
Yeah,
because we want to avoid the feeling of seeing the disappointment on this person's face. So that's why we stick to our yes. We
yeah,
say no when you start putting yourself first, when you start taking care of your energy. So that's another thing. When you learn about your human design, you start caring, and your inner child and so on and so forth. You start caring about how you feel about your energy. You are more careful who you share your energy with. And so you're like, you know what? yes, I said yes because I'm still, learning how to say no. And I give myself permission to call this person and tell them or send a message, whatever it is. Hey, I I said, I know I said yes, but then after some consideration, after I slept it through, I don't resonate with it anymore. I really want to just put myself first. I want to wrap myself in a warm blanket and like make myself a cup of tea and read a book. So I'm sorry, but I'm not coming. Give yourself
No,
permission to
yeah.
do.
And I love that. And I think we should have more of that in our world. You know, it's
Mm,
like when we make commitments to people. I'm an introvert as well, and it's like if you don't have the energy to do that today, don't tell me that you're okay with it and then like avoid it or whatever. Just say I need to take some time back for myself. I need to take some energy back for myself.
mhm,
It's really quite fascinating how how all of these elements are sort of part of that building.
mm,
Um, and I think we could talk about this for ages, but I am going to suggest we close it down at this point. The only other question I would ask is that how would you wrap up these sorts of things relating to spiritual identity? Because obviously spiritual identity is a really big piece, right? So it can be about things like spiritual beliefs and religions, etc. We've not really talked about much of that. We've spoken
mm,
about God
mhm,
and things like that, but I feel like that could be almost another piece. And some of these
mhm.
pieces are really quite deep. But how would you relate it back to the essence of spiritual identity, this work?
Hmm. Okay.
Might be a difficult question.
Yeah, because I'm thinking right now, how, so identifying with your spirituality. I don't know. Like for me, it's really just coming back to what we were talking about earlier, the beliefs. So whatever you choose to believe, that is then your reality. So if you choose to believe, whatever god you choose to believe in, may that be, universe, Buddha, god, Allah, whatever it is,
Or no God at all, to
or
be fair. Yeah.
exactly, it's just as long as there is, I do, but that's my thing, right? So I do believe that everyone, we need to believe in something greater than ourselves, whether it has a
Yeah.
name or not, like something divine. There is something, some energy, some whatever it is, something that is, that you have the respect for, that you believe. So in your time of need, there is something that is helping you.
Yeah.
You're not completely helpless and hopeless. So there is something that is, sunshine after the rainbow, something that
Yeah.
gives you that m- will to keep going, and to something that leaves you feeling held and safe, no matter the external circumstances, something that keeps your heart warm, something that, you know that stays with you
Yeah.
in every act of kindness, in every act of self improvement, of growth. There is something that is helping you and holding your hand, whatever it is, you know, that
And that,
helps you.
yeah, I love that.
Okay.
That's the link. I think that's the link.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people talk about spiritual beliefs and they talk about, as you say, which religion or whatever. But this is really fascinating because I think this can apply to absolutely everybody on the planet. And I love it. So okay, I think we should leave it there if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been really fascinating. And I think that I can see more talks in your future and my future about this. So I think we
Mhm.
need to do that. But if to our listeners, if this sparks something in you, I'd love to hear about it. You can connect with me or Lea on our social media platforms. I'll put details in the episode description. And I'm just going to close it out by saying, until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and keep living authentically. So, yeah, thanks very much, Lea. Have a good
Thank
day.
you so much for having me
Take
here.
care.
Bye.
Bye.